Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a collector of vintage science fiction paperback books, and I've been tagged in by Paul at the Accidental Bookseller to show my top 10 book covers. And I've seen many people on BookTube do that. So here in between my book haul videos, I thought I would show not my top 10 book covers because I've just found that too hard, but 10 top book covers from my collection. And to help narrow it down, I've stuck to the rule that's been suggested that an illustrator may only have one entry in the list. But I've also, to help me narrow it down, going to use each a publisher may only have one entry. That helps to narrow it down a little bit. So first off, I'm going for this beautiful edition of Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. And this is the Corgi 1956 edition by John Richards. And this is one of my all-time favourite science fiction books. It's a must-read for science fiction fans. Seminal book. And it's an absolutely beautiful cover. The only thing is that if you know the book, Ish, who's the main character, has a hammer, which is very important to the story. And there is no hammer on the cover, which I have to say I'm a little bit surprised about. Ish's hand is in a kind of funny position, so maybe John Richards thought about putting a hammer in his hands and then changed his mind. Who knows? But an absolute great cover. So coming forward a couple of years now to 1958, and this is the Digit edition, 1958, of Frederick Brown's Project Jupiter by Richard Powers, of course. Richard Powers is a hugely important figure in science fiction book and book illustration. Perhaps one of the preeminent illustrators of science fiction books, certainly in the 1950s. And this is an absolutely, I mean, he must be on any list of top 10 science fiction book cover illustrators. Next up, we have this 1962 paperback library edition of Hal Ellison's Alice in Wonderland. This is the kind of first edition, and it's in, I said paperback library. And this is an absolutely stupendous cover, I think, of Hal Ellison himself on a mushroom, reaching down to various characters from his stories. Absolutely wonderful idea and wonderful illustration by Victor Kalin. And Hal Ellison liked it so much, but when the book was reprinted, he wrote an introduction called The Man on the Mushroom. And I presume that's in tribute to this illustration, rather than any idea that he was imbibing certain substances. Lovely. Next up, we have a Monarch book from 1964. And this is The Gods Hate Kansas by Joseph Millard. And it's a Jack Thurston cover. And it isn't a 50s book, it's from 1964, as I say, but look, it's a kind of typical idea of a 50s pulp science fiction, a kind of lone astronaut battling with an alien in space. Absolutely fantastic. Why would you not want to pick this book up? Absolutely beautiful. Next up, we have this 1973 Pan edition of Robert Sheckley's Mind Swap. And this illustrator is unknown, and there are so many unknown illustrators of wonderful books that I thought I would give an unknown illustrator a place on the list. And look at that absolutely fantastic cover. You know, the alien is looking as perplexed at us as we are looking at them. Just brilliant. Here's another book from the same year, 1973. This is John Jakes on Wheels. And this is a Don Punchet's cover. Just absolutely mind-blowing. Just how can you come up with a cover like that as an illustrator? Just sublime. Absolutely terrific book. This is the Warner Paperback Library edition. I think this is the first. There are a couple of different editions with, again, great covers, but very hard to top this one. Another book from 1973. 73 was obviously a really great year. The doyen, perhaps, of 70s science fiction cover illustrations. This is, of course, David Pelham, with this edition of Philip K. Dick's The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. A Penguin book, as I say, and, you know, David Pelham, absolutely fantastic covers. I suppose his most iconic would be Clockwork Orange. I decided against that just because, you know, perhaps it's so well known. And the story goes that he did that wonderful illustration overnight because somebody was late getting an illustration in. But anyway, back to this book. Absolutely terrific. Look at that. Terrific. Really interesting, attractive cover. Stepping forward just a few more years now, this is one of my all-time favourite books. This is Floating Worlds by Cecilia Holland, and this is the Sphere edition of that. A little bit the worst for wear, but I absolutely love this book. It would definitely be in my top 10 of all time science fiction books. It's not really as well known as it should be. I mean, Cecilia Holland was a very well-known writer and has written a number of books, but this is her only science fiction book, and it's great. It's a kind of space opera. A young anarchist woman in the future goes as a representative of Earth to interact with another civilization, another culture. And it's just a rip-roaring story. Really, really good. Highly recommended, and a great cover. Mel Grant, if I didn't say. Next, coming forward a few more years to 1978, this is the wonderful Rodney Matthews cover for this Orbit version of Beasts by John Crowley. I've mentioned a few times how much I love John Crowley's writing, so I won't go on about it again, but this is a really good illustration, a kind of wraparound illustration from the beginning of books, some scenes from the beginning of the book. Absolutely beautiful. The lettering in particular, as well as the illustration, really works well. And then finally, number 10, this is a Fontana from 1979, Algis Budry's Michaelmas, and this is by Alan Hood, the cover. Really, you know, eye-catching cover, just absolutely beautiful. The bright yellow with such an interesting, you know immediately what's going on in this story from the illustration on the cover. So those are 10, ranging from 1956 up to 1979. Hope you enjoy those. See you with another video soon. Bye now.